everyone, Andrew here, and it's time for the top 10 best films of the 2010s. I will be, of course, going by genre, like I said before, and as I also said before, I will be doing the honorable mentions to start with, and then be talking about my favorite one for each genre. Let's start out where we started with the first one, and let's start out with the action films. So I tried to look at the stuff that was like the best pure action films, and we had a couple that were just super good. You had all three John Wicks, which are just amazing series, amazing acting. Welcome back, Keanu. We missed you. We had three absolutely amazing Mission Impossibles, from Ghost Protocol to Rogue Nation to Fallout. Each one of those was such a great evolution of that story and those characters, and just amazing set pieces action wise. We had both of the Raid movies, which are some of the best intense driven action films I've ever seen. And we also had like Mad Max Fury Road, which, granted, yes, falls a little bit more into sci-fi than it does action, but I felt it was really more focused on its action elements than it was on its sci-fi elements. And just absolutely amazing, just a beautiful chase movie that just works so well. But when I was thinking about it, I'm like, the one that fits to me as the best straightforward, solid action film has to be Fast Five. And I know a lot of people where this is their favorite of the Fast and the Furious series. And how many series can you really say that, where the fifth one in the series is your favorite and is arguably the best one overall? Like, it's just so well acted, such good story. The action set pieces are all amazing and interesting. The characters are so driven. You get to see a nice change up in the format to get a little bit more into all of them. Such good setup and such good character growth and payoff that just works so well as an action story. Moving on to comedies. Now, as I said, my comedic tastes are a little bit different than other people's, but there's a lot of comedies I did like. I really liked Night and Day with Tom Cruise and Cameron Diaz. When I watched this film, I did not like either of them as actors, and this film changed my mind, and I've actually given both of them a lot more chances, and I'm glad I did, because I've really liked almost everything that Tom Cruise has done since then. So I am really happy with that movie, but the action is so good, the story is good, the comedic elements work really well in this. I also recommend Isn't It Romantic, which is a really good look at romantic comedies and that genre and that storytelling without going to the stupid levels that all the spoof movies have been doing. Um, both of the Deadpool movies are just amazing comic book comedic action films. There's a little known comedy film that I really liked called Band Aid, which is about a couple that's on the verge of divorce, but instead of getting divorced, they start up a band that's just them writing insult songs to each other. I don't remember a lot of them, but I remember the one I do remember is basically called "I Don't Want to F You," and it's like I like seeing your face, and I like that we're together, but I never want to sleep with you again, type of thing. It's just really good and really well written and kind of funny. But my favorite comedy film has to be Easy A. Easy A is such a good modern day adaptation of The Scarlet Letter. It works so well on so many levels. There's just such good comedy, such good characters. Everything the lead does in this is hilarious. Just, you know, fully embracing her persona as this harlot person, and it's like, it works so well and it's so interesting. And I love the way she reacts to certain characters, especially when she's around her parents. All the interactions between her and her parents are absolutely hilarious. Like, there was this one scene where she starts talking like a Southern belle, and the mom responds in a similar fashion. It just makes me laugh so hard. Moving on to drama. Now, for me, um, rewatchability is a big factor in my drama, so I want stuff that I actually would enjoy to see multiple times. Uh, Good ones for drama-wise that I saw were like Hidden Figures and the first two Creed movies. Also, the film version of Veronica Mars, which was such a good bring back of that character and that story, and I'm so happy to have that back. Even though I've heard the new TV series isn't great, but I hope to watch it at some point and get something out of it. You also had a lot of good Tarantino films. I especially really liked Hateful Eight, which, while being on the slower side, had such good drama and intensity and character development to it. But if I have to say what my favorite drama of the decade was, and the one that hit me the best and gave me the most emotions, but I also want to rewatch it multiple times, has to be Horns with Daniel Radcliffe. And I know this would probably be on nobody else's best drama of the year list, and I don't care because I thought this movie was so good. The acting is great, the characters is great. Daniel Radcliffe is such a good actor. Like everything he's done post Harry Potter has actually been really good, and I really like this was one of his best performances. He's just playing this guy whose love of his life gets murdered, and everyone thinks he did it, and he ends up sprouting these horns and has to go around trying to find out who killed the woman he loved as he becomes more and more empowered by the darkness of those horns. It's just so interesting and so well told, and has such good heart to it that you really feel for this character by the end. But I loved it. Moving on, musicals. There were a lot of good musicals, honestly. We had um, a bunch of good musical biopics, including Straight Outta Compton, which is just absolutely amazing. Bohemian Rhapsody and Rocket Man this year, which had really great musical numbers, even if the stories weren't the best. There was a great little movie called The Last 5 Years, which is based off a Broadway musical that's like basically a couple that is at basically you flip flop perspectives between the female and the male of this couple, and you're seeing their stories in or an opposite of each other. So you're watching from the girl's perspective. They've already broken up, and she's dealing with the heartache of that, and you go backwards to the beginning. And with his, you start out at the beginning, and you go forwards to the end with the breakup. And it's just such a really weird, interesting, woven together film. Also, there was a band film that was just like a live concert that I absolutely loved that I want to talk about called Motley Crue's The End. Now, I saw this knowing almost nothing about Motley Crue. I knew they did the song called Girls, 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 and that was it. And by the end of this concert, I think I fell in love with all of their songs. It was such a high energy, such a good concert. It's so well told, so interesting, so really cool. There's a point where they strap Tommy Lee, the drummer, into this harness thing, and they start lifting him up the wall, and he's still playing the drums as he ends up completely upside down while playing over the crowd. And I'm just like sitting here going, this is amazing. I would have loved to seen this live. And there's one that almost won this list for me, and that would have been The Greatest Showman, which has great story, good characters. You know, the music and the choreography work so well together. Is like the one of the best movie musicals I've ever seen. The only negative with the story is that it's focused on a character who is actually not that good in reality. But there was one musical that I had to put above that one. It came close, but this one is my personal one of my favorite films of the last 10 years, of any 10 years, and that has to be Strange Magic. Now, Strange Magic is an animated film. It's produced by George Lucas after selling off Star Wars. It's a romantic musical in a Moulin Rouge style, and it is just gorgeous, beautifully animated, beautifully told. The story just works so well together. Honestly, it's such an interesting way of doing it, such good storytelling, good music, and everything. I highly recommend if this sounds even remotely good to you, go and look up the music from Strange Magic called Mistreated. It is sung by the villain, and it is absolutely brilliant. Just is the point he's just like, I've been insulted, disrespected, I've been mistreated. And it's so much energy and so much gusto. And it just you can tell that he is soaking every minute out of that. And that is amazing to do considering it's an animated face, but you can tell he loves every minute of that. Just amazing. Highly loved film. I really want more people to watch it because it's just a lot of fun and really good at musical. Moving on. Horror. We had a lot of good horror and a lot of bad, but there's some stuff that really stuck out to me. Both of the It movies, It Chapter 1 and Chapter 2, are very good films. Number 1 is almost a perfect film. It's really well told, really interesting. Chapter 2 has a little more flaws to it, but it works still in its own way and has a lot of good qualities to it. I really liked both of the Happy Death Days. Even though they fall a little bit more on the comedic side than they do on the horror side, they do have those good elements into it. And it's a really good murder mystery, too, that works super well. I really liked Us by Jordan Peele. It has such a good atmosphere and tone to it. Just this air of malice throughout the whole thing kind of works really well. We had some actual good Child's Play Chucky movies, which would be Curse of Chucky and Cult of Chucky. Curse of Chucky is this really nice, good, slow burn, And I just loved the fact that they brought in the voice for Chucky's daughter as a character and had her be his child, or like she was almost like Chucky's child to a certain extent. And the fact that she takes over the mantle at the end is just amazing. I really like her. She's a really good actress. Highly recommend those. And there was a series that I almost picked to be my number one. They were actually my number one right up until the day before I decided to film this, and that is The Conjurings. Like, The Conjurings are like almost perfect what you expect from a horror movie. Just the pace is perfect, the beats are perfect. It's like the exemplary, well told horror movie. I would put this in the same league as like The Shining and The Exorcist, because it's just how well it does the genre that it's in. And it makes you care about everyone in the story. It makes you care about the people being haunted in the house, and I don't usually care a dang about that, but I super cared about all the families in this one, and I was surprised. And there's not too many movies that can beat that, but I had to, for based on what it did and what it was and how it affects so many people, I had to go with Get Out as being the best horror movie of the 2010s. And, it's for someone's first film, the first thing they do as a big production. This is amazing. This is a movie that looks like it was done by someone who has, years of experience filming, because every single little scene has details. Everything has these bunch of parts that are going on with it, and just works so well. It reaches so many people and touches on so many people, and like it affects. It's such a good message and a good story for Black people, but it even works and has a good effect on me, and I'm like the least Black person there is. So it's really just such a good, well-told story. Highly recommend watching. Cinema Wins is the everything great about Get Out. He goes into such good detail about all these little things that I never picked up on that I just love. Such good details on all of it. Highly recommend. We move on to comic adaptations, and of course we had so many good comic adaptations. I mean, literally all of Marvel. All of the Marvel Studios, Captain America Winter Soldier, Captain America Civil War, Avengers, Avengers Infinity War, Avengers Endgame, Doctor Strange, Black Panther, Spider-Man Homecoming. All of those were just amazing, really super well told. You had Spider-Man Into the Spider-Verse. We had Lego Batman, which is such a super fun look at that character. We had the two Kingsman movies, which were a really cool, fun adaptation, and they actually got good action scenes and good story and good character development and good comedy. And then you had one of my favorite films of all time, which is Scott Pilgrim vs. the World, which is just such a good, fun, all over the place kind of action romance film. But just everything is a reference. Everything, little bit of it works so well. There's not too many films that could beat this out, but there was one that had to, and that was Logan. Yes, no, Logan definitely was the best adaptation of the best comic adaptation of the last decade. Just so well told, so interesting. It helped having all that history that we had with Hugh Jackman and knowing that this was the last one and that he was going to go out with everything he had in him. Just so well told, and it hits so many genres and so many different things. Like, beautifully told, beautifully acted, beautifully directed. So much heart, so much character to it. You feel the pain, you feel every single step of this. It just works so well, and it is a little depressing, but it is meant to be, and it hits so well that you enjoy it despite the fact that you're crying your eyes out. Moving on, romance. There was a Love, Simon, which was a really good, having to come out as being gay, but also fall in love with someone, but him not being able to do the same as you are. There was Adjustment Bureau, which was a good film about like two people that met and fell in love, but then the universe is literally trying to keep them apart. And them trying to get back together works really well. Water for Elephants is a really good like period romance with Reese Witherspoon and Robert Pattinson in it. And Robert Pattinson gives a really good performance in this. I actually super like him in this, and I did not think I would after watching all the Twilight movies. There was What If, which is another Daniel Radcliffe movie, which he's really good in, where he falls in love with someone who's in a relationship and tries to be her friend, but is also trying to get her, and the conflict of that just works so well. It also has Adam Driver, the guy who plays Kylo Ren, in it as the best friend, and he does such a good job and performance in it. It's really good. That said, my favorite romance movie is one that not a lot of people have heard talk about called Mr. Right. This movie stars Sam Rockwell and Anna Kendrick in it as these two people that just kind of met and have a connection and start getting really close together. But you find out that he was an assassin and has been hunted by the government to do jobs for them. But basically, he has this weird thing about him where it's like anyone that tries to hire him to do an assassination job, he shoots them because murder is wrong. And it's just this really kooky, weird kind of relationship that they trying to get together and trying to make things work, but the bizarreness of it. There's good action scenes in it, good comedy, good story, good romance, good like all this stuff is super fun, really good energy, really lighthearted. And I love the fact that they kind of explain how, in a good way, how Sam Rockwell is this super spy type of thing. It's like he can read the energy of the world and manipulate it to his advantage. And Anna Kendrick has the similar power, and the way he tests it and to try to prove it is he throws a knife at her without her knowing, and she catches it like this, and she's like, "Did you know I could do that?" And he's like, "I hoped, I wasn't sure." And then she's like, "Throw again," and does that, and it's really fun and just all over the place. Really amazing, funny film. Highly recommend. Moving on to animation, of course, we had some really good animations. You have still all of Pixar from the last few years, especially like Inside Out and Coco and Toy Story 3 and Toy Story 4 and Incredibles 2. We had Moana, which is just amazing Disney film. We had Megamind, which is one of the best DreamWorks films ever made. I'm so sad we have never gotten to Megamind 2 because the first one is so much fun. And I honestly almost made Strange Magic the top animation film. But I felt that one fit better into musicals than it did into animation, even though it is an animation. But there was one animated film that stands out above it that I had to choose for this, and that was Kubo and the Two Strings. Now, Kubo is a stop-motion animation film that is just breathtakingly gorgeous. Every single shot is amazing. And I spent the whole movie watching it going, is this stop motion or is this animated? Because just the details of it, especially like the monkey character, every single time you see her fur, it's a little different. It's a little different matting, and you don't tend to get that with stop motion. You tend to have a character that's kind of set, has a similar kind of body type. Having one that has that much detail seemed impossible until they literally showed you that they were doing stop motion at the end of the film. But it's just got so much heart and so much character and so many things going on for it. Great story, great acting, the mood is amazing, and it has enough drama and it makes me cry. Just beautifully animated, beautifully done. Highly recommend. Moving on to science fiction, we had so much good science fiction. We had a lot of really good science fiction. We had all of the Star Wars. We had Legendary's Godzilla 1 and 2, which I do highly recommend. A lot of people complain about the human element in that, to which I say, have you seen a Godzilla film? The human element is always the worst part of a Godzilla film, but they're in them. You deal with it. And none of the humans are bad in these Godzilla films. It's really good, lots of fun. I really liked A Wrinkle in Time. It had such good effects and storytelling that worked really well for what wasn't that great of a story to begin with. Edge of Tomorrow, aka Live, Die, Repeat, which is just Tom Cruise as a character stuck in a Groundhog's Day time loop. That's really a lot of fun, really interesting. We had the Power Rangers, the remake of that, which is such a fun action film that not a lot of people went to see, I'm sad to say. But it's a really good adaptation of it. You just have to get past like the first 10 minutes, and then you get to see how really good and interesting the entire film is. We had Star Trek Beyond, which is one of the best Star Trek films of all time. Such a good story, such good character development, beautifully done, beautifully told story. And then my personal favorites, the one I had to put out at number one, I had two that were fighting for number one. Having to choose between them was like deciding which is my favorite of my children. Granted, I don't have children, but But I had to give mad love to John Carter and Pacific Rim. Now, Pacific Rim is just such a great, fun action film. I still have my little poster there that is I got it for a buck, and I love it. It's just amazing poster, amazing film. Guillermo del Toro's at his best in this. Good character stuff, good action, good effects. It's like, even though the entire action scenes are all shot in the dark, in the rain, it still is clear to see what's going on. It's still easy to follow the story. It's so interesting. Beautifully made movie. And then at the other end of the spectrum, you have John Carter, which is all bright and shiny and light. And you have a character that can literally jump like Superman over tall buildings. And he's such a well done, well played action star. And it's a really fun science fiction action film that sadly not a lot of people got to see or if that was any interest. This is one of the few films I've ever had where I've had people literally come up to me and go, "Hey, have you seen John Carter?" And I'm like, "Yes." And he's like, "Don't you think it's amazing?" And I'm like, "Yes, it is." And we agree and we geek out on how much exciting, fun, amazingness John Carter is. So if you haven't seen that, do recommend it. You just have to get over there's going to be a guy on Mars breathing air, jumping like Superman over buildings. Once you're okay with that, you have a really fun, amazing film. And finally, we move on to the best family film. And there was a couple really good ones for this one. I liked Fantastic Beasts and Where to Find Them. It's a really good follow-up to the Harry Potter series. Sadly, it isn't going in a way that makes me continue to like the series, but that's neither here nor there. The first one is really good. We had the live-action Christopher Robin, which was a lot of heart to it, a lot of good characters. Just really interesting, really well told. We had the live-action Dumbo, which I super loved. I did a whole review on it in my best of 2019. Take a look at that if you really want to know my thoughts on it. We had a remake of the Karate Kid with Jackie Chan as Mr. Miyagi, and it works so well, and actually works a little better than the original does with the tone and what it's trying to set up and what it's trying to do, and the way the kid win actually makes sense, and it works really well. And I super like it. It's just a lot of fun, a lot of good energy, but also has those moments that just really hit home. But if I had to say what was the best family film of the 2010s, it had to be Jumanji: Welcome to the Jungle. This was a movie when I first heard about it, I was kind of like, on it. It didn't help that when it came out, everyone was praising this one, and then they were bashing Last Jedi. And I'm like, there's no way the Jumanji is any good. And I'm like, but I went and saw it, and I'm like, I'm wrong. No, it's amazing. It's a really, really good, fun action film. Just lots of good character moments, good story. You get to see real growth from these people, at least until the sequel where they all revert back to their old selves, but whatever. Just so interesting and so well told. It has such good action and such good drama and such good heart. And even though you're watching characters die on screen, it is actually desensitized and done in a way that doesn't feel like it deserves a PG-13 or an R rating. It still has that family-friendly feel to it. That's really impressive given how dark it gets. Plus, it feels like a really good, natural sequel to the original. So there's my top 10 best films of the 2010s by genre. What did you all think? Is there some that you disagree with? Is there some that you think are just as good? Have any of you seen some of the ones, the more obscure ones? Have you seen Strange Magic? Have you seen Mr. Right? Have you seen The Last 5 Years? Or have any of you seen Band-Aid? Please tell me. I'd like to see if anybody else found that. I really want to get the soundtrack too, but I haven't found it anywhere. Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. Thank you for watching. Happy reading, happy watching, and I'll see you all later. Bye!